There has been a fresh influx of refugees from Myanmar into Mizoram from the Chin state of Myanmar. The ethnic Chin people have been fleeing to the Dwarkatha town of Mizoram. This is after a fresh bout of fights between the resistant forces and the Myanmar army in the Chin state. Remember, in the last 2 years, there have been at least over 32,000 refugees from Myanmar who have been sheltered in Mizoram, and now what media reports suggest that about 5,000 more people have come in. This after airstrikes that has been reported very close to the border with India. In fact, very interestingly, this time around 45 Myanmar army soldiers also illegally crossed over to India, and they were detained near the border, and then Indian forces actually airlifted them from Dwarkathar in Mizoram to another end of the border with Myanmar in Manipur in More town, and handed over to the Myanmarese authorities. So this is a fresh development which New Delhi is keeping a close eye. In fact, what we have known from sources is that the state governments of Mizoram and Manipur have been alerted. In fact, to discuss on this issue, a short while back, I spoke to a noted author and journalist based in Guwahati, Rajeev Bhattacharyya. Mr. Bhattacharya very recently had been on the other side of the border, right in the front line, where there have been this confrontation for months together between the resistant forces as well as the Myanmar army. So he has seen all this all this that is happening in Myanmar from a very close range, has written in several publications about this. So I began this interview with Mr. Bhattacharya, asking him that the recent development that we are witnessing this week, what this means particularly in terms of the border dynamics that India and Myanmar has. We have a porous border with Myanmar, and this is what Mr. Bhattacharya had to say.
43 Myanmar army personnel escaping to Mizoram and surrendering before the police is a very unusual incident. This has never happened before. Secondly, these 43 people, army personnel, they had to be flown by choppers to a secured location. Now these two episodes reveal a lot about the situation in Myanmar. The Myanmar military cannot come to the border region because the entire border, starting from Manipur right down to Mizoram, is under the control of the resistance forces. Now, if we have a look, very recently, from October 27th, there was an operation launched in Shan State, northern Shan State. The operation was codenamed Operation 1027. The Myanmar army military has suffered serious reverses. War has also, now the offensive has begun seriously. The Myanmar army military is on the back foot. Now the only option, what looks very certain, the only option before the Myanmar military is bombings, which cannot be ruled out. Even in Mizoram, even across Jokathar, that day also they bombed a village. Many people had to, many refugees, they came over to Jokathar. They joined other people who already had camps there. So such kind of developments cannot be ruled out. Now if there are more bombings, it will be on the resistance strongholds. More bombing means more refugees for India, more refugees for Mizoram. Apart from that, it will be very difficult for the Myanmar military to launch a ground offensive against the resistance forces along all their areas, along the areas near the border, or in any of the strongholds in Chin state, or maybe in Rakhine state or in Sagaing region. The only option is bombings.
Also, Mr. Bhattacharya, if you can give us an idea about what are the larger implications for India, given the fact that we see that inside Myanmar, this conflict between the resistant forces and the Myanmarese army is only intensifying.
Myanmar will not be the same again. Now, if we have a look at the India-Myanmar border, which is 1643 kilometers long, the areas opposite Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland, I don't expect too much of changes there. Now, as we come down towards Manipur, Mizoram, from Tengnopal district, Chandel, Churachandpur down to Longtlai district in Mizoram, these areas have changed forever. Now, if the war goes on, it will be difficult for India to execute and complete the two major projects. One is the trilateral highway, the other is the Kaladam project, which are also very crucial components of the Act East policy. Now, if the war comes to an end, now as some experts, most observers on Myanmar are of the firm opinion that the Myanmar military is on the back foot. The countdown for their final defeat has begun. Now, if the military junta is defeated, if the opposition national unity government comes to power, well, we have reasons to believe that the NUG, the opposition government, will have a pro-India policy for a variety of reasons. In that case, the two major projects, I believe it will be easier for India to implement and take them to a logical conclusion very soon. Another problem, irrespective of who remains in power, there will be two major problems I can anticipate, which the new government or even the Indian government will have to be very careful. One is the proliferation of drugs, the drug trafficking. I would even go to the extent of saying that there is a heroin epidemic in Myanmar. Now, this is going to be a huge challenge for both the governments. Second is the small arms proliferation. Now, I have been to Myanmar, I have seen so much of weapons flowing in from different countries, handmade weapons. So much of surplus of weapons. Now, even if the war comes to an end, the major challenge for the new government would be to disarm the entire populace, to ensure that the rule of law is established. Otherwise, what will happen? The country is poor, the people are poor. There will be a natural tendency to sell the weapons. So, and I believe there is no dearth of buyers. So, these are two major challenges that the Indian government and both the Myanmar government, whosoever remains in power, will have to be very careful. There should be some joint mechanism to tackle these two dangers actually. These are the two dangers looming large on the horizon.
Thank you, Mr. Bhattacharya, for those wonderful insights, and we'll keep tracking this issue very closely, reporting on all the development in terms of this recent fresh influx of refugees from Myanmar into Mizoram.